I'm not even a freaking human right now. Let's see if I can string 3 words together to talk about this goddamn book. Hey friends, what is up and welcome back. As you can tell from the title of today's video, I'm going to talk to you about the books that I read this week. One of them I have not finished, but I'm still going to put it in here because I want to give you my overall thoughts because it is what I read this week, but I'm going to go into more depth next week when I do my actual wrap up for what I read. So, running on 2 hours of sleep, just gonna forgive me. I don't have any makeup on. My hair is curled from yesterday. I look like I just rolled out of bed because I did actually just roll out of bed. So excuse me for any errors or rambling like I'm currently doing, but we're gonna go ahead and get started. The first book that I read, I think I have the cover for, but I don't actually have the book, and it's An Echo of Things to Come. It is the second in the Lycanius trilogy. You guys know I read A Shadow of What Was Lost last week. Now, this book is the second in a series, so I don't want to go too much in depth, but I do want to talk about my takeaways from the first book going into the second one. So the overall story, if you haven't seen what the first one is about, I'll leave the link up here that I did for the actual wrap up for A Shadow of What Was Lost. I'm just going to go right into talking about the second one. I am going to try to avoid spoilers as much as possible, however. So, a couple of things that I talked about when I did my wrap up for A Shadow of What Was Lost was that I felt like the world wasn't established, and I felt like there were a few things sort of missing from it, and I ended up giving it a 4-star because overall I love the characters, I love the plot, I love the magic, I love all of it. It really hit me in a way that a book hasn't really hit me in a long time. Now, going into the second one, An Echo of Things to Come, I ended up giving this 5 stars, and because a lot of the, I think, like I don't want to say failures, but the things that were sort of missing from the first book were really like honed in on in the second one. I feel like you get a much grander sense of the world, and I think you get a much grander sense of the characters, and I think that the character development, like the overall who they are, what motivates them, what causes them to do the things they are doing, are really in this book. And there's a lot of questions that are unanswered from the first one, and you guys know one of my least favorite things about books are when they have more questions at the end than they do actually answers. And I enjoy a good cliffhanger. There's definitely a cliffhanger at the end of the second book that I was just like, so I was raging. Like, I need the third one right now. And this book, I feel like the series does a really good job of giving you questions, but giving you enough answers to them that you want to continue reading. No one wants to really, it's like if you watch like an 8-hour-long movie and you had all these questions and they were only answered at the very end, chances are, because you have so many questions, it would get really bogged down and really annoying to continue to watch. And I look at other forms of media that way as well. So video games, it can be books that I'm reading, whatever it is. I look at, am I getting enough answers to the questions that I have while being presented with new questions to carry on the story? And that can be in the form, like I said, of, you know, a plot twist. It can be a cliffhanger at the end of the book, whatever it is. And I think the second one did that chef's kiss so fucking well. Like, reading it, a lot of little pieces started coming together. And I think that's where a lot of people, I think, get the Brandon Sanderson kind of comparison, because Brandon is really good at writing really good plots. Like, he's really great from what I've heard. I mean, I've read Elantris, but I mean, it's not really the best example for Brandon. I've heard that he has mastered the art of making things, like bringing things to your attention, but not making them in like the forefront of your mind. And the further along you get in the book, you start really putting things together that maybe you may have missed. You're like, oh my God, they mentioned that. And oh my God, I forgot about that. And that is what the Lycanius trilogy does. And I think that it's handled so beautifully, and it's so intricate. And reading the first one, like I said, I gave it 4 stars because I really enjoyed the plot. I really enjoyed the characters, and I really enjoyed the magic. But the second one is a whole new ball game, and I cannot wait to see what the third one brings me, because we get so much more on the characters and kind of what make them like tick, especially Caden. Caden has become one of my favorite characters in this entire series. If you watch my vlog, I kind of addressed that I'm not really so attached to any of the characters like I normally am. Like, if something really terrible happened to them, I don't think that I'd be like, I haven't cried yet, and I'm a crier. Like, when it comes to like reading or like any kind of media, like video games or movies, I cry. Like, I'm an emotional person. I like to just be like out there, I guess, with my feelings. But with this second book, it was so well-rounded. Like, it was it was just a perfect blend of characters and plot and magic and world building. And I saw some reviews where people said that they felt like those things weren't addressed, and I think that maybe they just have a different level of what they require when it comes to those things. But I feel like for me, it was done perfectly, and it was just absolutely beautiful, and I cannot recommend the series enough. Cannot wait to get my hands on the third one. Hoping and praying it comes soon. I think it comes out in a couple of months, but like I said, it is coming from Orbit, so I can't wait to like get my hands on it and just blow through it. But yeah, so this series, especially this book, were just highlights of my month. Now, the next book that I want to talk about is a book that I started this past week and could have finished. I had every intention of finishing it on Sunday. I had every intention of finishing it last night on Monday, but things happened and I ended up staying up really incredibly late for, honestly, in my mind, probably much better reasons, at least for me, than like staying up and reading a book. I couldn't sleep and I was having a good time and I just like didn't go to bed basically. But anyway, I started reading Spellslinger by Sebastian de Castell. You guys know this series has kind of been within my inner circle really popular. Like Jade from JD Reads really loves it. I know AJ really loves it. I know Bunny really loves it. I don't remember if Bex has read this or not, but even like my friends and like my subscribers and stuff are like, oh my God, like I love that book. And when I first started reading it, I was like 100 pages into it, 150 pages, and I'll list the vlog up above so you guys can get kind of more thoughts on it if you need them, but I wasn't really blown away. And like I said in that vlog, I don't know if it's because I was coming down from the Lycanius trilogy and it was so like lush and this was so not lush. But I will say, I think this book and this series are going to be either my favorite of the year or some of my favorites of the year, because once you hit about page 115, you're like, what the, like, I literally was reading the book and my coworker was there and I was just like, what the fuck? And he was like, what's happening? And I was like, I love this book. And he's like, you've literally just told me like 10 minutes ago that you fucking hate it. There is a character in this book whose name I'm not going to give away, but they are an animal and this animal can speak. And it sort of takes on the, I don't know, like buddy system of our main character, Kellen. And Kellen is a young boy who is without magic in his society. And it's very, very important that they have magic, because if you don't, you basically become a chatet, which is I think I'm pronouncing that right, a slave in your society. So like his uncle is the butler basically of his home, and they don't call him uncle. They don't address him like that. They don't really care for him. I mean, Kellen kind of does, but the whole society is pretty fucked up. And I will say, like, the overall, like, basic plot of it, like, the first 100 pages, I was just like, this is dumb. Like, I don't connect with 15-year-old boy characters. It's, like, one of my biggest pet peeves in stories. I don't like them. But it's just, like, I told you guys, I think last week, that it's been a while since I read a book that has actually made me laugh out loud. And I was, like reading from the page to my coworker, like, look at what this motherfucker said. Because the animal that can speak in this book, I'm also going to say, and I kind of addressed this in the blog, is very rude, very crass, very like offensive, and that is very funny to me, like, because he is like this cat squirrel thing that's like the size of a raccoon, but he is kind of human in that way, like he's able to communicate with our main character. I will say this story so far, I haven't really got a good sense of the world, but they haven't really left where they are. And I do know the rest of the series, they do sort of travel around, which is really interesting. The other thing that I really like about this book is it's fucking funny, you guys. Like, the main character is so self-deprecating, which is one of my favorite traits, like in people in general, or like in characters or in comedy, whatever it is. I love self-deprecating humor. It is my, like, for me, one of the best ways that I think I kind of present my humor to people. I am very self-deprecating. Like, I have a good sense of who I am, and I do like picking fun at myself. And that's definitely what happens in this book. And it's very like a lot of like internal dialogue. Like, you know, you just picture like the record scratching and then just Morgan Freeman going, and it was in that moment that he knew he fucked up. Like, that's really what this book like embodies. It's very, very funny, but it is also very offensive. So take this with a grain of salt if you are getting the recommendation from me and you have not read this. If you find yourself, I don't want to say offended, because I feel like the word offended has a really negative connotation, but if there are certain things you like and don't like in books, especially very offensive characters, like there's the squirrel thing calls everybody fat. Like, he hates humans, calls everybody fat. Like, it's it's very weird. Also, the other main character punches a girl in the face. So like there are trigger warnings, I guess, for certain things in here. But if you are one of those readers who just enjoys a good laugh and kind of understands characters for like plot development's sake, I think you'd really like this. But I have to be honest, if you're going to go into it reading it for my recommendation, please don't come for me if you don't like that kind of humor. I'm giving you a fair warning that this is a highly offensive book and I fucking love it. All right, everyone, that is going to be it for today. Those are the books that I've read or tried to read in the last week. I'm going to try to figure out a way to finish books so that I can have like the full, like, this is what I thought at the end of the book kind of thing. But I did want to sit down and talk to you guys about Spellslinger, so that's why it made it into this video. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know down below a book that you read this week, or a book that you want to read this week, or a book that you're in the middle of reading. This is a book-focused YouTube channel. If you could talk to me about the books that you're reading, I would really appreciate it. But I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.